Let me start with you, Lizzie, and try to answer the same question, all of you. What is your conversation like with an ad agency when they come to you with their traditional way of placing media? Is your conversation any different, or are you just, okay, yeah, whatever you want to place in my network, in my solution, in my app, and so on?
No.
Or are you really trying to engage? What is the conversation like? I'm curious.
It starts with stop. Stop what you're saying. No, I think actually the agencies are in a really good spot right now in terms of everyone's come to the realization that if you don't have an audience-first strategy and really determine your storytelling mission, that it's useless to start with media first. So we go audience first, and we ask them very clearly who, how, and what are you going to tell them, and then I will come back and help you prescribe the best branded content, experiential, hardworking media that are the standard kind of IEB formats we're all used to. But it's very consultative, probably more so than it's ever been before, and that's refreshing, and they're very open to us thinking about the listener first, which is where my focus lies.
Right.
So the only tricky part might be just that, making sure that they keep the consumer, the listener, specifically millennials. If you're not authentic, you're dead. I mean, their bullshit meter is dead on. They can see it when it's coming. So I'd say it's just kind of a combination of all that, but it's an open conversation.
Right. What about your conversation, Beatriz? What is it like?
Oh, I mean, brands are incredibly excited about our demographic. I mean, and they want to be content creators themselves. I think for us, branded content is very, very hot, more than doing a pre-roll ad or a banner. They want to be in business with the influencers who have the millions of followers. So we try to, as much as we can, not every brand is that easy to work with, but for the brands who really get it and who know that millennials are all about being authentic, we're able to do some really interesting campaigns that brands are usually very, very happy with. So I think it's a very different time where now brands are being content creators as well. So there's a lot of education that goes on. It's a big process. Language has always been a challenge.
But a lot of your conversation is about creating branded content.
Branded content is the hot spot today for us.
Adam, what about you? What is your conversation like when people come to try to pitch to millennials?
Yeah, the story certainly starts with audience for us as well, and brands come to us because they want to reach that influential audience, those 18 million people that follow us across social networks, and then it becomes our job to really figure out what is the best strategy for doing that. And these days the conversation generally leads with content, but that content is certainly evolving towards video, towards integrated social campaigns. I will say display is still a big part of the discussion though. For us, it's kind of content plus, and that plus is our premium display products, it's events, it's all these other things we can do to actually bring the brand to life. So if you're to go check out that Intel program I showed on our site, there's the videos, but they're wrapped up in this beautiful immersive experience with custom display advertising we did that makes sure that the Intel message doesn't get lost in all the great content.
Right. Ted, let me bring you into this, not somebody who has a constant conversation with advertisers, because I assume you don't try to place ads in your apps, or perhaps you do. But what I found fascinating about your presentation is that it all comes, perhaps, correct me if I'm wrong, with your relationship with your sisters. You picked up on their life experience, and you created brilliant technological content solutions about rating faces, whether somebody is attractive or not, a little gossip network as an app. I mean, you picked up you listened to your immediacy around you, and you were not afraid to create content relevant to that. How important do you think it is for people here to not be afraid to go to these places, to say, well, if teenagers are gossiping all day long in high school, let's create content that is relatable to that everyday ongoing experience?
I think there's certainly a lot more we can learn about a younger demographic, and certainly from my perspective, you often see an elder generation talk about privacy issues and how they shouldn't necessarily be pushing certain types of content to certain types of individuals. But certainly from my perspective, I think from a millennials idea, the argument of privacy has totally changed. And what I mean by that is there are places, geo-targeting advertisements, content-driven based advertisements as well, which I do feel that corporations specifically are often quite adverse to trying, because they're sometimes a bit too worried about the ramifications of what might happen, which is why I say when I spent my time at News Corporation, the only real way I could find myself pushing boundaries and driving innovation through, but both display advertising and new content-driven methods that we could use to attract a younger demographic, it always felt like pushing on closed doors.
Yeah. But incredible, your admission that privacy is a non-issue.
Well, I think a younger demographic absolutely see it very, very differently to parents. I mean, that's just natural.
Yeah. I heard somebody not long ago talk about the fact that millennials want naked brands. They want to own them, they want to share them, and they want to change them. How relevant, does that resonate with your content creators? Is this how they perhaps want to relate to brand custodians present here?
I mean, it's very interesting with our content creators. You always think there's always a price for somebody, and with YouTubers who don't make a lot of money out of the AdSense on YouTube, you would think that you would come with a very juicy offer from a brand and they would take this in a heartbeat. Probably they can make in one video what they make in a year of their day job plus their AdSense. But it's very interesting because they see themselves as a brand, right? So they say, no. If this is not authentic, if this doesn't fit my content, if this is not going to be true to my audience, I can't dirty up my brand themselves. So this is not an actor who you can hire and you can pay to smile next to a brand and then they're off doing something else. To our digital creators, this would be terrible, right? As they build their own brand, if their own brand does not fit within the brand that we're offering them to be associated with, they will turn.
They're rejected. Adam, your experience with how they see brands, do they see them as naked brands?
Well, I think, starting at the brand side, I feel like what's happening is they do want to, follow the brands they love online, but then those brands are essentially in the same position as publishers, and then they need something to fill the airwaves, if you will. So I think the brands that are doing the best job of that are the brands that are finding innovative ways to tell stories and create content that's not necessarily the promotional copy you're used to creating and marketing and putting on TV and putting on billboards and putting in newspapers. It's a whole new game, and I think that authentic connection is incredibly important. If it just feels out of place, you shouldn't do it, I think, is kind of our how we play it.
Ted, your reaction to it, because somebody also pointed out recently to me that Coca-Cola has become a naked brand. The millennials are owning it, sharing it, and changing it to the point that now it has your personal name on the label. It is becoming that.
I think that was an interesting from Coca-Cola, and very smart. I would say, psychology says that humans like to speak with humans, not companies, not brands. So, and I think what you're seeing now with this new paradigm of social is that I as an individual can have direct access to people that I once never did. Celebrities that I follow. We've spoken about Latino celebrities, but celebrities worldwide. And I think now there is an understanding that actually I should be able to communicate with whoever I want. Whether they respond to me or come back to me is another story. But I think it's incredibly important on social channels to humanize what you do as brands.
Right. Lizzie, you get the last word.
Ooh, the last word. I think, if the goal is to get that audience to share, I think it's very simple to say, why do I care? Why do I share? Like, that fully captures everything that you need to focus on. And when you're briefing or drafting a strategy or working with a content creator, which we do all the time with musicians, it's important for them too. And musicians, just like the partners that MiTú works with, they benefit. They know the new model. The new model is merchandise yourself through brand engagement. And the only way to get that sharing is that there is a way that, in your example, this real person finds some need to care about it and then share it. So I think it's a pretty simple focus point. You can get kind of into analysis paralysis around, you know, how to build the content and what it looks like and how you hold the can and is she in the car while she sings or not. And, but if you stick to that one simple fact, you'll be successful.
Right.
That's my vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Lizzie, Ted, Adam, and Beatriz, the Transformers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.